Lazy leftists scapegoat your rights for their failures. We call out the dishonest and disingenuous left in tonight's preamble. Now, before I get into guns and your rights, let me highlight another story which illustrates my point of view on Democrats in simpler terms. These are terms even a leftist can understand. Let me introduce you to Michael Lopez. He apparently is a lazy, loudmouth leftist Latino. He used to work for Universal Music Group. I say used to because young Michael here was fired, according to reports. Mr. Lopez was in mourning, he says, because of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. He claimed his state of mourning prevented him from going to work. In other words, he wanted to be paid not to do his job, but to push his left-wing politics. Indeed, we see this all over corporate America, in the sports world and in the entertainment world. The left thinks everybody should be paying them so they can voice their left-wing lunacy. In a stunning display of self-importance and, well, the warped, woke, alternative world these left-wingers live in, Lopez blasted his former employer as anti-gay for terminating a queer brown person during Pride Month, no less, for speaking up in defense of abortion rights. That's according to a lengthy note found on LinkedIn, by the way. Did you see what he did there? In an effort to justify getting paid for not doing his job, Lopez checked all the Democrats' woke boxes. Lopez is a leftist. He's brown. He's gay. He's properly mourning the fact that more babies will live in a post-Roe v. Wade world. For that, he appears to think he deserves to be treated special. Because of GovEd, a cancerous pop culture, and the leftists' victimhood hierarchy, Mr. Lopez apparently has never once considered that people can't pay their bills with backward, antiquated, and debaucherous left-wing idealism. He learned a valuable lesson, though, in equality. Deadbeats, regardless of their politics, get kicked to the curb in a merit-based, free enterprise system. To their credit, Universal Music fired Lopez because he wasn't doing the job he was hired to do. Now, we, as employers of elected officials, should consider doing the same thing to Democrats and their enablers in the Republican Party, and for the same reason. Politicians take an oath to preserve and defend the Constitution of the United States. And sadly, the Democrat Party, with an alarming number of Republican defectors, have begun to systematically dismantle our rights and limits on government power in that Constitution. We're getting a clearer picture tonight of what transpired around the Illinois Independence Day shooter. We still don't know his motivations, other than the fact that he targeted a holiday parade where he suspected those in attendance were there to celebrate American independence. But in what has become a disgraceful tactic from Democrats, before this whack job shooter was even captured, left-wing politicians tripped over themselves to find the nearest media outlet to call for, what else? Gun control.
And like so many other communities around the nation who are suffering from gun violence, we need help, and Congress needs to take action. Whether it's universal background, things that 90% of the country support, universal background checks, making trafficking of guns across state lines illegal. Straightforward things we can do that can respect the Second Amendment, but also keep our kids, our schools, our theaters, our community safer. We need to act, and we need to act soon.
There he is, Illinois Representative Schneider, calling for Congress to act, pretending that Congress didn't just pass gun restrictions less than 2 weeks ago. By the way, how's that working out for everybody? Then Schneider wants to pretend that the Second Amendment doesn't apply to all Americans by outlawing guns legally purchased in one state from being taken to another. What's ironic is that Democrats want to limit a right, the right to keep and bear arms, spelled out in the Constitution, from transgressing state lines, while simultaneously they're working to facilitate transportation for folks seeking abortions to defeat state restrictions on the practice that nobody has a right to under the Constitution: slaughtering children in the womb. Illinois' failed governor, a man who is rumored to be running for president, J.B. Pritzker, didn't waste time finding a camera yesterday. You know, these Democrats, if they fail at one job, they look at it as a resume enhancement to get their next job. Before all the facts were known, here's Pritzker, another left-wing extremist Democrat, defaulting to where they always go: stealing your rights.
Furious that yet more innocent lives were taken by gun violence. I'm furious that their loved ones are forever broken by what took place today. I'm furious that children and their families have been traumatized. I'm furious that this is happening in communities all across Illinois and America. I'm furious because it does not have to be this way. And yet we as a nation, well, we continue to allow this to happen. While we celebrate the 4th of July just once a year, mass shootings have become our weekly, yes, weekly, American tradition. There are going to be people who say that today is not the day, that now is not the time to talk about guns. I'm telling you, there is no better day and no better time than right here and right now.
Yeah, that's very interesting. He seems very angry. He seems very concerned. But is he? In Chicago, another one of Mr. Pritzker's cities, 72 people were shot, 10 of them dead, over the 4th of July weekend. Yet Mr. Pritzker doesn't show up to Lori Lightfoot's backyard decrying the violence in one of America's cities with the strictest gun restrictions in our nation. Speaking of the racist mayor of Chicago, J.B. Pritzker doesn't condemn Lori Lightfoot's proposed efforts to cut Chicago's police budget by $80 million, about 3%. What about left-wing Soros-funded DAs who refuse to prosecute violent crime in Illinois and in blue cities across these United States? Where is J.B. Pritzker, Joe Biden, and other high-profile Democrats condemning yet more violence resulting from left-wing policies in blue cities? Sadly, we can expect John Cornyn and Mitch McConnell, they're standing by, they're standing ready to take away your rights because Democrats can't do their damn jobs, the jobs they were elected to do. The simple fact is, your Second Amendment rights did not cause this or any other shooting. The greatest cost that comes with a free society is that we run the risk of some people abusing that freedom. The answer is to punish the law-breaking and to take legal and constitutional steps to prevent the abuse right up to and not infringing upon law-abiding citizens' rights. Your elected officials are hired to do a job. Most of the Democrats, with, sadly, GOP help, are failing at their jobs. Instead of protecting and defending the Constitution, these Democrats make our towns, cities, states, and country unsafe. Then they turn around and falsely blame your rights instead of their own incompetence. I, nor you, should be inclined to accommodate them any longer.